Very good afternoon to all the gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen here. Welcome to the Industry Dialogue session of the ICREMV 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and distinguished speakers, we are gathered here today for the thought-provoking Industry Dialogue session centered around the theme, Housing Preferences Beyond the Economic Crisis, Does It Create Financial Elites? See, this session promises to be an enlightening exploration of the critical issues facing the real estate industry, and we have an exceptional lineup of experts to guide us through this discussion. Professor Vikramarachi is a highly accomplished scholar with a PhD from the University of Colombo. She holds a MA in Town and Country Planning from the University of Moratuwa and a bachelor degree in estate management and valuation. Professor Vikramarachi is a fellow member of the Institute of Town Planners of Sri Lanka, an associate member of Institute of Valuers of Sri Lanka, and a member of Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. She is also a life member of the Sri Lanka Association for Advancement of Science and Geoinformatics Society. Next, we have architect Dr. N.A.T. Senaka Dharmatilaka, a chartered architect and a chief architect at Overseas Realty Ceylon PLC, Sri Lanka, and another master's in urban and regional planning from the Saxion University of Applied Sciences. He also possesses a postgraduate diploma in project management from the University of Moratuwa and a bachelor degree in estate management and valuation from the University of Sri Jayewardenepura. He is also a fellow member of Institute of Town Planners Sri Lanka and a corporate member of Institute of Project Managers Sri Lanka. The fourth resource person is valuer Neil Tissera, Senior Assessing Inspector from the Municipal Assessors Department, Colombo Municipal Council, Sri Lanka. Mr. Tissera holds a BSc Estate Management and Valuation and MSc in Real Estate Management and Valuation from the University of Sri Jayewardenepura, Sri Lanka. So we are now moving to the presentations. Before starting the presentation, I would like to let you know that each presentation is allocated 20 to 25 minutes and the Q&A session will be held at the end of the session. So you are allowed to raise any questions you have. The Zoom participant can raise any questions they have via chat box, and also they can raise their hand so we can facilitate them to ask questions by unmuting themselves. And also for the physical participant, we will open the session for Q&A and we will facilitate you to raise any concerns and questions during the Q&A session. So moving on to deliver the first presentation on design strategies for value-added upper income housing projects, I would like to invite valuer Neil Tissera to do the presentation. Over to you, Mr. Tissera.
Thank you for the introduction. Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and very good morning and very good evening to the virtual audience who are joining with this session from all over the world, from many parts of the world who are joining in the virtual session. So before starting this, the presentation, I must thank the organizing committee of ICREMV 2023, especially the conference chair, Dr. Lakshmi Karunaratne, and conference secretary, Ms. Hashini Wickramasinghe, for inviting me and giving this very important opportunity to join with the Industry Dialogue Forum, one of the key event of 7th International Conference on Real Estate Management and Valuation. As Ms. Hashini mentioned in the introduction, the main theme of this forum, this industry dialogue, and the subject matter of the session will be the housing preferences beyond the economic crisis. Does it create financial elite? As an industry partner, myself, I'd like to share some information with you regarding the equity of housing policy, especially from local authority perspective, by referring CMC, which is the largest local authority in the country. Actually, due to the current economic crisis, there are many changes as well as challenges have been affected in the housing market, especially the cost of construction, the demand for housing, I mean the consumer preferences, and recent changes in the government economic policies and several other social factors have been in the list of reasons behind the current housing preferences. So these issues and the industry responses will be discussed later and with different perspectives by our distinguished panel as the session goes on. So my concern here is to draw your attention to the current role of CMC on regulating housing policy in the city of Colombo, perhaps how CMC involves in serving citizens and maintain its equity to minimize or to mitigate the creation of financial elite in the housing market. All right, thank you. Okay, all right, sorry. So, starting my presentation, to give you an understanding about the Colombo Municipal Council, I would like to share some basic information with you. Residential population, as you can see, there are about 600,000 residential population living in the Colombo Municipal Council area. And in addition to that, there are about estimated 800,000 to 1 million floating population comes into the city for day-to-day needs. And you can see the Colombo Municipal Council area consists of 37.29 square kilometers and about 16,000 square population density is about 16,000 persons per square kilometer. There are two main DS divisions and 55 GN divisions and 6 municipal districts and 47 wards. So these are for just for a start and for your just basic information. If you concern about CMC's regulatory policy, there is a major role to play in terms of development control of the city. Under the provision of UDA Act number 41 of 1978 and its subsequent amendments, CMC involves in regulating orderly development of the city and maintain its equity policy to diversified social categories. In CMC limit, the part of this process is handled by the Urban Development Authority, that is for subdivision approval less than 1 acre. And for construction permits, it's about 9,004 storms within the MC, and rest is under UDA. So as we viewing this slides, tools of such as construction permits, of conformity, solid waste clearances, fire clearances, drainage clearances, etc., etc. These tools of controls, I mean, these clearances are solely used for the purpose of regulating the statutory control over the equity of housing market and its development. The vision of CMC to Trump, the city of Colombo, an opulent forming the Colombo Municipal Council in excellent. In terms of policy level, uh, so thereby in terms of policy level, the general concept of equity is the focus principle of the authority as the citizen's main service provider. Therefore, better to have a basic understanding about how the equity policy has been performed in its day-to-day service provision for the residents of the city. For the housing market, these are actually highly important, and it has a significant effect on overall behavior of housing preferences, especially for low-income housing. As you all know, CMC involves in providing both social and physical infrastructure. This section is actually broadly expanded area to discuss, but in summary, I try to share with you a basic idea in relation to the service provision. If we are concerning about the social infrastructure, the Public Assistance Department, which operates under Charity Commissioner, provides all the basic assistance in the way of financial donations to the low income groups, debt donations, midday meal allowances for religious schools, instruments for disabled persons, counseling services, education scholarships, vocational training centers for professional education for youth, preschool education, education for non-schooling children, disaster assistance likewise, and many more other functions delivered, especially for low-income housing sector. Library services is one of the key social service provided irrespective of social class of the residents of the city. And this and with main library, there are 13 branch libraries are in operation for this service. The Sports and Recreation Department is in charge of all sports and recreation activities of the residents. There are about 30 reception halls, 52 community centers, more than 30 playgrounds for outdoor and indoor sports for adults as well as for children. Although these services are provided with a payment, the rates are in concessionary and affordable range. If we looked at how CMC facilitating of physical infrastructure, there are a number of internal departments handling the process. The Fire and Safety Department is the sole department that established even in the national level to ensure the safety of life safety of the citizens in any kind of a disaster. This department equipped with the main office, 5 substations and a training academy. The solid waste management is the most highlighted process in the society. The residents' concern and attention goes in for which the authority has worked with much more attention. As far as the CMC is concerned, it generates 500 metric tons per day, and the solid waste management department is in full responsible for the collection, transport, and disposal of municipal waste generated by residents as well as the commuters of the city. So there were many controversies went on during recent past on the management of solid waste, and now there are many management practices have been applied, such as recycling, home composting, eco school projects, eco kiosk centers for implementation of 3R solid waste, and it has been adopted. Luckily, we have to say it has been adopted first ever waste to energy solution for the solid waste disposal problem in Sri Lanka, with free of charge for the citizens. However, a fee is charged for the collection of tree cuttings, debris removals, and a trade refusal tax is charged for collection of commercial waste. The traffic control, the Traffic and Road Safety Division of the CMC is responsible for the efficient management of road network and road furniture, facilitating the road safety and minimizing traffic flow of the city. The road designing, intersection designing, traffic signal designing and installation, maintenance, lane marking, identifying safe locations for pedestrian crossings, ensuring safety of pedestrians, installation of pelican crossings, marking of pedestrian crossings, street lighting are the major functions that are the traffic and road divisions are entitled. The next important facility will be the drainage and water supply, especially the sewerage drainage system and storm water control. This system consists with pumping stations working continuously, which collect residential and industrial wastewater and pump out to the deep sea by 2 sea outfalls. Over 80% of the city is covered with a sewerage network constructed in 1902, which is about 125 years old system. That is, this system has built with using very advanced engineering techniques. Although the part of the modification has been done later, these gravity lines now are in operation without any serious issue. Over 250 kilometer distance of gravity lines are collected this waste at 15 pumping stations. These stations are connected with a network of force mains to take sewerage into 2 sea outfalls located at Mattakkuliya and Vellavatta. Both these outfalls are gravity type and fitted with diffusers to achieve adequate dilution and transport sewerage into the deep sea. The next important facility would be the public health. There are 4 departments actively engaged in there are 4 departments actively engaged in safeguarding the health of the citizens. Public Health Department, which concerns for food hygiene, epidemic control, pollution control activities, and management of cemeteries and cremation centers. As you can remember, this is one of the key departments who has done an outstanding job during the COVID pandemic. While Health and Curative Department is responsible for providing health curative services through 42 centers in the city of Colombo, and it serves about 3,500 patients per day. And there are also an indigenous medicine department. It provides planning and implementing Ayurveda health and curative and promotive services through indigenous medicine. And municipal and veterinary department is in charge of rabies control and animal vaccination, stray animal controlling. So in overall, CMC has a unique relationship with citizens from their birth to the death, their activities. Without these kind of facilitation, especially low-income groups and underserved settlers of the city may not be sustained. So this is how the facilitation is done to the citizens. And this facilitation is done irrespective of any social class. CMC is not entertaining or promoting any special group or social class. But when it comes to serve with available resources, the practically priority will generally goes to the bottom line. So we have gone through all the facilitation. For any kind of facilitation, we need the money, we need the income. So shall we move on to the budget of CMC of 2023? You can see that approximately 70% of the income, of the total income is generated through the taxes, and the rates and taxes is it's about 1/3 of the total estimated budget. You can see although this the 17 billion was estimated, generally only 12 to 14 billion is the actual budget. If you compare local government revenue of the country, it is about 49 billion rupees, and CMC share is almost 1/3 of the total revenue of the local government sector. So if we take the current composition of assessment units, you can see 70% represent the residential component, while commercial component comprises of 21%. Apparently, compare difference or the ratio between the residential to commercial is high. For a commercial city, what would be the ideal ratio as far as the economic growth is concerned? So, however, it has to be discussed with in a different platform with more details as far as the city growth is concerned. So, but in contrast, if, for example, if you analyze the rating income, the scenario becomes totally upside down. 71% of the total income generated to commercial category, and residential it is about 17.5%. So there is a hint of responsible for taking care of less earners, which is the rating also guided that. So, which make the sense of principle of equity is in line with the implementation division about building applications submitted within year 2021 and 2022. This might give you an kind of idea about housing preferences within the economic crisis period. As per the informal conversations had with the officials of city planning divisions, comparatively low. Data, it clearly indicates that to highest housing supply category in the industry. For more information, details go around the city, many unauthorized constructions are going on. There must be a further permanent and steady steps has to be taken to control of these constructions, because that matter has been a problem of equity for the citizens with valid development permit. By concluding this dialogue, my final move is to share with you some details regarding underserved settlements. These underserved settlements comprises both informal settlements as well as formal settlements. These data have been obtained by the GIS division of CMC, and data gathered from each of the district of CMC during the period of 2021. As per the data, there are about 1,504 garden settlements, and 285 flats were identified as garden settlements. As you can see in the map, you can see the purple colored areas represent these underserved settlements, and you can see most of them are concentrated in the north, east and south parts, especially the inner side of the administrative limit. So I'll wrap up here, giving you the message of that CMC its major role is to role in the housing industry is to maintain a sustainable equity policy to serve citizens in order to reach its ultimate vision. So thank you so much for giving your attention to my brief presentation. You can raise your questions at the scheduled time. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Right, thank you very much, Valuer Neil Tissera. I hope those statistics are very useful and informative to our audience. So please stay for the Q&A. I'm sure the audience will have certain clarifications to get. Right. So then we are moving now to the second presenter. Our second presenter is planner EAC Priyashantha, who will delve into the intriguing topic of project management and urban development authority amidst the economic crisis. Mr. Priyashantha, the session is over to you.
Good evening to everyone. First of all, I am thankful to organizing committee of the industrial dialogue forum in line with the international conference of the real estate management and valuation, and also today I will present my presentation basically in the project management aspect, how to implement the project with the economic crisis situation. My topic basically is the project management at UDA amidst the economic crisis. Before go to the detailed presentation, I prepare some 3D animation video. Can you? This animation video prepared in the year 2018, from the beginning of the one project of the UDA implemented project. You know that during the economic crisis period, the real estate, not only the construction industry, all the real estate market almost collapsed. Then due to various reasons, increase in the construction material is the main factor, and also the reduce the demand for the construction, because due to economic crisis, affordability of the people also drastically reduced, and also the exchange rate fluctuation. You know that the in the end of the year 2021, $1 it was around 185 rupees. It went up to 380 rupees in the beginning of the 2023, and also the import restriction. Even we cannot open the LC for the importation of the construction material, and also the financial hurdles. We face a lot of financial crisis due to this crisis situation, and also it's also affected get the project delays, and the also government also stopped the implement the infrastructure project. It's also directly affected to our project implementation. It's not This is the some housing project UDA plan to implement during the before the crisis period. The first one we already completed in 2020. Then other project is still under construction. But apart from the 10 to 12 housing project, we selected only 2 projects to continue with the crisis period, within the crisis period, to implement the housing program. The one is the Viyatpura one, which I saw in you saw at the 3D animation in early slide, and also the Green Arcade one, Kola Kotta. Other all projects we temporarily suspend due to the crisis situation, but now we are planning to recommence the 4 projects. One is the Makumbura Trans-Hub Residencies, and Borrasgamu Lake Edge Residencies, and the Elliott Place Borrell one, and Malabe Crescendo Residencies. Apart from these 4 projects, others are still we are discussing how to implement the project without harming the UDA cash flows. And you know then this, the total cost of this project would be more than 50 billion rupees. Our main income sources would be the pre-sale income, pre-sale proceed. This is some of the pictures for the existing situation of the housing project. You can see the everywhere in the Colombo city and the suburbs. You can see this kind of pictures. The key challenges we face during this crisis period, even though the IMF they calculated our inflation rate around was around 57.2, but the actual situation is for example, the cement per 50 kilo bag prices went up to it's increased around 276%. You know that before the crisis period, 150 kilo of the cement bag is cost less than even the 1,000 rupees, but it went up to 3,200 per one bag. And the steel also the before the crisis period is around metric ton this was around 120,000 per ton, but it went up for 540,000. Likewise, all the building materials prices went up in drastically, increasing drastically. Then how the construction industry people survive this kind of crisis situation? That's the challenges of the every developer, including UDA. UDA also the part of this development process, especially for the real estate and housing sector. And also the project financing risk also is we face severely. You know that the lending rate of bank lending rate went up 30% to 33%. Then nobody can get the loan from the bank, even though the bank gave the loan. Nobody can like to get the loan from the bank because of the lending rate is very high. And market volatility also the during the crisis period, the affordability of the house buyers is drastically reduced. And also the regulatory changes. You know that due to the discussion of the IMF, the government has decided to introduce new taxes for the apartment, sales of the apartment. They introduce 15% VAT and the SACL another 12.5%. It's also directly affected to the unit price of the selling price of the housing unit. And also the social and political instability. You know that during the this crisis period, Aragale and other political unrest happen in the everywhere in the country. And also the infrastructure and utility challenges. Government has decided to stop all the government funded infrastructure project. Then some of the housing project we couldn't get the infrastructure facilities as well. And also the access to the skilled labor, also the other factor during the crisis situation. The most of the professional, especially engineers, give quantity surveys, and the skilled laborers, they try to find the jobs from the other countries. Then we face the skilled labor problem as well. The strategies to overcome those challenges, this is the important factor. Then how we implement the project during the crisis period. Those are the strategies we use. Inflation and cost escalation. We analyzed the cost and we did the rebudgeting, because the cost factor is the most important factor of this industry. And we did the value engineering, and we try to minimize the cost utilizing the value engineering method. And also we discussed with the contractors, and we asked them to go with the long-term supply agreement with the supply chain. And also the due to you know that during this period we couldn't open the LCs. Then we asked the contractors to utilize the local produce building material rather than importation of the material. And also the financial hedging, also we utilize those criteria. And the second one is the project financing risk. You know that the lending rate of the bank is went up to 30 to 33%. Then you know that the duration of the construction, this kind of apartment project, is around 3 years. Then we have in the 3-year period, then we have to pay the interest alone with the 100, it's almost 100%. Then the financing risk also we face severely, and we introduce new financial method to overcome those issues and diversify the source of funding. Yeah, you know that our main source of the funding is the pre-sale proceed. Then we couldn't maintain our project only for utilizing the pre-sale proceed and the bank loan. Then we utilize our own money to complete the some of the project, because we have some agreement with our customers, our client. Then we have to deliver our project on time. And also the market volatility. You know that the during the crisis situation, we find alternative market segment. The local market segment is their affordability is got reduced, and we find the new market segment. We went to visited some countries, and we invited to foreign workers and foreigners and our expats who are living in the abroad. We invited to them to buy the apartment. You know that the dollar rate is very fair to buy in that time to the foreigners. Then we raise funding. We open the dollar account with the approval of the central bank, and we earn more than $500,000 within 3 months period during the crisis period. Then that money we utilize to importation of the building materials. And also the funding shortage. Our main funding source is the pre-sale proceed. Then during the crisis situation, asset monetization also we utilize our own money. We sell some of the properties, UDA own properties, and earn money, and we invest those projects, and also the joint venture partnership, especially we invite to the contractors and developers to come with the private public partnership method. Now we are negotiating with some of the leading contractors come with the PPP model to implement the ongoing projects. And we also ask in the government support and financial restructuring method also we apply. And the risk mitigation method we utilize, because risk factor we have to share with the others. That's the most important factor in this kind of situation. That's why we ask with the contractors come with the PPP model or joint venture partnership method. Then we can share the risk among the stakeholders. And uncertain market demand. As I explained, we did the market research, and we identified the new market for this sector, apartment sector, and we collaborate with the partnership, and also we discuss with our clientele, and we negotiate with them, and we ask them we have to increase the prices in some level of price increment. Otherwise, we cannot implement this kind of project. They agree, they do agree, but we are not asking to increase the actual way of the price increase, but we discuss and negotiate in some level of the we asked around 20% price increment for the our apartment buyers. They also agreed to go with the this kind of solution because the actual prices would be now apartment price would be around it's increased more than 50 to 60%. Then we only ask in only increase the 20% like that. And also the regulatory changes. We also update all the regulatory changes and the public relation and community engagement, and also the access to skilled labor. We discussed with the contractors, and we asked them to increase their wages to retain the skilled workers in the construction site. And also the training, we discussed with the contractors, and we asked them to do the cross-training and multitasking activities, and also the remote work and telecommuting. You know that some of the professionals, they can work in the Zoom platform. Then we use all kind of the, and also the infrastructure and utility challenges. Some of the project we temporarily introduce the STP until the main sewer line connected. We introduce the sewage treatment plant for our projects. And also the social and political instability. Also, we ensure the safety and security of the construction site and the personnel, and with the support of the government, stay engaged with the local communities. The way forward of the future, I can summarize like this way. Initially, we temporarily suspend most of the project, and we prioritize them in manageable way to complete. And we introduce new approach to restarting the abandoned project. It's basically we are now negotiating with the PPP model, contract financing, and we identify the sum of the project we have to sell entirely for the private sector. Otherwise, we cannot achieve our target. And we also introduce the outsource our marketing campaign for the utilize the knowledge of the private sector marketers. You know that as the government agency, we have a lot of limitation doing this kind of project. You have to follow the procurement procedure and the government financial regulation, and all the barriers we have. The implementing this kind of projects not in easy task for the public sector compared with the private sector. Ultimately we completed the one project which I show it in the beginning of this presentation. This is the actual pictures of this project, Jayewardenepura project. Now we completed around 90%. We handed over to the housing buyers. We have to complete another only 10%. This is our achievement during the. This is only one example. We do have another example, but I cannot. This is due to time limitation. I cannot explain the all. In conclusion, we minimized the adverse effect during the crisis period, and adopting the new strategies for the way forward plan for the abandoned projects, and the main factor is we are trying to share the risk among all the stakeholders. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Priyashantha. So the last couple of years was actually quite challenging. So I hope that you got a very good understanding on what are the challenges and difficulties faced by the Urban Development Authority and what were the strategies that they adopted to overcome them. So if you have any other clarifications you get, please get them ready to be raised during the Q&A session. And for the virtual attendees, you can forward those questions via the Zoom chat box. So with that, we are moving to the third presenter of the Industry Dialogue segment, architect Dr. Senaka Dharmatilaka, who will be discussing the design strategies for value-added upper-income housing projects. Dr. Senaka, please come to the stage.
Hi, good evening, or rather good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to address this audience of real estate scholars and professionals. And what I'm going to share today is about how we architects contribute or add value to residential real estate. And of course, not in the conventional sense of designing buildings, preparing construction drawings, specifying materials and then writing specifications, etc. But not in the quantitative sense, but in the qualitative sense of building urban communities. And building urban communities, so building, especially we can talk about building urban communities in the context of condominium developments, right? And if you take condominium developments, you are designing for a communal lifestyle. And how do you build a community? If you ask an engineer how to build, if you ask me how to build a building, one of my engineering friends will help me with an answer, how to do the, what do you call, the substructure, then the superstructure, right? And how to put the material, select material and how to put them together. But a community is not built on brick and mortar. A community is not tangible, it is intangible, and it is not physical, it is metaphysical. So if it's not built on brick and mortar, what is it built on? A community is built on trust. A community is built on the trust that your neighbors and your community will not encroach upon your rights and privileges, that your neighbors and community will not violate your boundaries, that your neighbors and community will not trespass upon your territory. So we talk about territory and boundaries, right? So the best way to start is for us architects is to start defining what ownership is. Ownership in a condominium, we need to define it in such a way with strong spatial cues so that people, these cues are encoded in the build structure and the users could decode them, right? So what are the ownership standards? There are units which are separately owned and there are common areas which are jointly owned. And individual, what are the areas which are collectively owned? You have common areas of the property such as hallways, walkways, laundry rooms, etc. Then you have common utilities and amenities like the AC system, air conditioning system, elevators, right? Water supply system, sewerage system, etc., which we also call facilities. Now, to explain how these boundaries and jurisdictions are defined, I'll start with a project I have been dealing with for the last 20 years, the Havelock City project. This is the earliest scheme concept design I'm showing you. Now it is complete, right? So we had out of 17.5 acre plot. The road frontage of the Havelock Road we developed as a commercial project. So you have a initially we designed the podium shopping mall on top of that hotel. I think the best the important area for this discussion is what you find behind the residential development, which comprised of 8 residential towers, which is surrounded by a internal peripheral ring road, which makes it a completely secluded residential enclave, and a roof garden and a garden in between. And this becomes a roof garden. How does it become a roof garden? Because it is placed on top of 2 layers of car parks, right? So it is about 5.3 meters above the peripheral ring road. And how do I define space and jurisdiction? You may see, I don't know whether we could, okay, we could use a pointer. You might see the drop-off points. Don't worry. You might see the drop-off points of the peripheral ring road, which are secluded, almost defined like what we find a crescent in the London situation. And there, it's not the peripheral ring road is usable only by the residents of the community, which is 1,100 units. So it becomes a semi-public road, not the public road which is outside. And the drop-off points and the entrance lobbies become semi-private areas. And of course, once you go up, you come to the units which are private areas. So we define these areas public, semi-private, and private. Likewise, the roof garden also becomes a semi-public area because only the residents could use it or their visitors. And then you define the block, what you call the void decks, which is directly contiguous with the roof garden, which also becomes semi-private areas which can be used by the residents of that block. So, yeah, so the roof garden was supposed to be, so here again you see the roof garden, which is in the middle of the residential. How this is happened? Okay, so that's the roof garden, which is planted, and you see it in the plan. Again, you can see how the zoning is done, the semi-public ring road, the semi-private drop-off areas, and the apartments which are private. And of course, I cannot help but mention Mr. Martin Pereira, my late Mr. Martin Pereira, one of my mentors and my and a close friend, when we started this project about 20 years ago, this entire land was empty. It was only wilderness. You had grass growing up to here. There would be serpents hissing through the grass, right? And Mr. Pereira was staring at the darkness. And then I asked, I want to have a punch a joke at him and ask, oh, what are you looking at, Mr. Pereira? What do you see? He said, say, no, don't you see? I see children. I see children playing. I see grandparents in the company of grandchildren, enjoying the company of grandchildren, and their parents going off to work in the comfort of knowledge that their children and their parents are in the caring embrace of a protective community. Now, for an architect, this gives me the chills because now he's a development manager who should be talking about rupees and cents or glass and steel and cement. But also, he's an accountant. He should be talking about dollars and cents. But he's talking about building a community, right? So this is my first sketch for the garden. I normally communicate with sketches rather than using words. So to initiate the schematic design from our consultant, of course, the concept design was done by Professor Shirani Balasuri and Mr. Lucky Sernaka. And then in order to develop the marketing collateral as well as to initiate the schematic design, I gave my instructions in this sketch. So you can see the buildings in the distant ground, trees and the foliage in the middle ground, and people in the foreground. So it's a place for friends and family, right? So of course the trees grew up. Now this on a rooftop, right? Some of you all must have seen, right? It became almost like a rainforest. We started doing the buildings. Buildings face the gardens, most of them, and so parents can see their children playing in the playground. So it builds a warm community. The houses were designed in such a way you have a gradation of living room, then the balcony which doubles up as a veranda, and then the outdoors. So the gradual gradation from indoors to outdoors, right? And the trees, of course, you can see in the distance the void decks. I always said the level that is contiguous with the roof garden, we didn't allocate for houses. It was empty. It's called the void deck. That's a place where toddlers and grandparents could play around under shelter of the building. But you can the children could run out to the roof, the garden area, and play. Right? It's a kind of semi-sheltered area, and then which is directly connected to the clubhouse. Right? So the clubhouse we built. This is just as it was built before the people came in, and this is one of the first sketches I developed for the clubhouse. Or the render, what you call the scanning hasn't come quite perfect. What I wanted was together, I think with our architectural team, we wanted to have banquet halls on the upper deck. Banquet hall, in the sense, those are private function rooms for people to have their birthday parties, etc. At the level contiguous with the roof garden, the pools, the three pools, the kiddies pool, jacuzzi pool, and the main pool, and the void deck, where you have a cafeteria, what do you call a gymnasium, and a nursery school, a kindergarten, right? And you can, so along with these sketches, things worked out. And you can see how once it was built, you can see how the gradual area of playing emanates beyond the roof, the swimming pool, and the pool terrace, right? And I don't know how many of you all have seen this movie, which is called, which came out about 3 years ago, Concrete Cowboy, which is about a group of horse riders, a community of horse riders in northern Philadelphia. Only one thing is a takeaway from the architect. It says that home is not a physical space, but it's a in a family. It's not a nuclear family they talk about. They talk about an extended community. So the home is not a physical space; it is metaphysical. And I see this happening throughout this project. And as and when people came in, it brings color to the project. Not literally color, but also life, right? You can see children playing in different play areas we have created. When children come in, the parents come in, and the parents enjoy the watching their children, but at the same time they make connections, and that makes connections between families, and that's what makes a community. It's the children who weave a community and make a community, right? Now, this kind of chit chat is what builds a community. First, you are lazy, as a necessary activity, come there and then watch the children. Then you exchange views, compare notes about with other parents, right? And sometimes you have intense sports activities on specialized sports area that we have built, right? And talking about these areas and boundaries, right? It is very important that we talk about the ownership and territory. So when we have so many people, otherwise anonymity sets in. So what's the individual homeowner in a condominium? You only own three-dimensional space, right? And three-dimensional space, three-dimensional airspace defined by 6 boundaries, right? You have the 4 boundaries, the vertical boundaries, and then the zenith, which is the floor, roof slab, and the nadir, which is the floor slab. All of them, we need to know that all of them are defined either in the middle of the wall or middle of the floor slab. Why? Because you cannot, the wall itself, you can't penetrate the wall from the center line. You can't even drive a nail to hang a picture. Why? If it's the neighbor, it's the center of the boundary walls. If it's if it's the common corridor, it's the center of the wall. Otherwise, you are changing the common corridor. If it's the external wall, you cannot penetrate beyond the center of that wall with the external facade, because you cannot change the facades. Because this is governed by this one single rule, that the homeowner of the individual dwelling unit can make interior modifications, but cannot impact upon the common areas nor their neighbors, right? So if you take an individual will hold, I mean, this is defined in the condominium plan, individual holds the title to a portion of a building or a unit, and also he owns a share of the rest of the property that is common to all the other individual unit owners. If you talk about the collection as spatial elements, the condominium has individual home units, common areas, the land where it sits, and of course common areas we can go on forever, right? Lobbies, corridors, stairways, parking lots, washing machine bays, rooftops, elevators, etc. And all these spaces, if you see what I have just indicated here are some common areas. So these common areas, amenities and utilities have to be maintained also, right? And it has to be maintained collectively by the owners, and it is done through the homeowners association, of which every unit owner is a part of, right? And also along with the space comes the program. Architects have to design the space along with a preconceived program. So at the, you know, at the drop-off point from the peripheral ring road, we make sure that nobody gets inconvenienced by honking horns and so on when somebody gets down there. So it off the main peripheral ring road, it becomes a semi-private area, semi-public, semi-private area, not the semi-public area which is the roadway. And at the ground level, all we have the infrastructure buildings, what areas which are the telecommunication, the incoming switchgear rooms for electricity, distribution switchgear rooms, the transformer rooms, the generators, etc. And on the void, the second level is the void deck, which connects to the roof garden. From the third level onwards, you start the houses, right? So the program we talked about, so this is where you get dropped off. You either, now what you see at the ground level are those service spaces, and then you get into the lobby, block lobby, either you go right up to your the apartment, or at level 2 you can come out and then go to the void deck, and beyond that the roof garden area. So I shown the spatial structure, and mainly by access control, only the residents or visitors accompanied by residents can go to the roof garden. So these have to be thought of in spatial structuring as well, right? So you know the common elements, the land and the structure, we have common facilities, water supply, power supply, sewerage disposal, firefighting, etc. And the common amenities, which are the roadways, access ways, which are also common elements and facilities. There are little gray areas there, especially the garden areas, right, where we have given abundant common spaces. And what governs all is the condominium plan, which is done by the architect, especially the surveyor and the lawyers. All of us come together and we write this thing, which is like the constitution. It defines how the property is divided, right? How the individual holds a portion of the building or a unit, and how he owns a share of the rest of the property, which is common to all the individuals. And it gives you all the built elements, the dimensions, the what you call the condominium parcels, their boundaries, how horizontal and vertical boundaries are defined, right? The share value specifically, right? And all these things, and then this becomes a governing factor of ownership. Now, having said that, let's look at the quantitative design strategies that we take to make sure harmonious living. Now, this is the project after it was completed. You saw the main, the initial design. So we turned the hotel into an office, standalone office unit, which is 50 stories high, which is already commissioned, and the mall, the shopping mall is a standalone unit, which stands on a 2-layered basement of car parks. And I have got the shifted the clubhouse to the center of the property, which becomes a social hub, right? And one of the principles is the land should be common to all condominium parcels. So everybody should be able to play, just like my roof garden there. And the rooftop should be common to all occupants. You cannot be subdivided, right? And all the essential utilitarian services should be available, and they should be marked in the plan. Spaces should be allocated, ancillary facilities should be given, like the gas cylinder rooms, the water sump and the pump rooms, the fire water pump rooms, etc. Then the electric, as much as facilitating the CB requirements, the incoming switchgear rooms, the transformer rooms, the distribution switchgear rooms, the generator rooms, everything should be in place, and the generator should have the automatic transfer switch. The water supply has to confirm, mechanism has to conform to the water board requirement, right? And all common services, service lines, fire, electrical, water, sewerage, etc., should be separately located in ducts for easy maintenance. And also these individual ducts, as well as the individual and the common meters, water meter, electrical meter, gas meter, everything should be installed in the common areas. Why? When our staff goes into inspect these meters, they shouldn't disturb the privacy of these people, right? So what you see in brown color is my common corridor, and what you see in multicolors around the the lift core are those shafts. You see two blue shafts, which are the water supply, then the electrical and data, ELVs, and then the gas main, as well as the refuse chute, right? And fire, of course, is very important to build confidence between the residents and the developer. Why? There are 5 pillars of fire protection I see. I call it prevention, detection, protection, suppression, and evacuation. Prevention is to do the proper thing of ensuring that accidents won't happen, like inserting the power lines within GI cables, GI tubes. Protection is to ensure automated dampers if the fire happens, and to have proper fire rating of material. Detection is about fire detectors, flame detectors, smoke detectors, sprinklers, which are also detectors. They give with the flow switches, they are addressable system, right? And then so detection, and then suppression. You have what you call like the landing valves and the fire hydrants, hose reels, right? Sprinklers, as well as the breaching inlets that allow the fire department to augment the water supply in case of more water to fight the fires, as well as for evacuation. You need to have the escape fire staircases, fire lifts, as well as the signages, right? And even during fire, and when not, we need to look after our senior citizens. So you need to have what you call refuge areas by regulation after each 10 floors in a high-rise building, right? And there's a calculation, and also you need to make sure that there's proper signage to indicate where the refuge areas are. And even then you need to have apart from that, you need to have senior disabled toilets. And not only that, you need to have toilets for the drivers, the gardeners, security guys who are working for us, right? So then you need to have a proper solid waste disposal system. Now, not only the sorting of waste, I'm sure Neil will agree with me, but also the the refuse chutes, if you are incorporating, you have to be stainless steel 316. The inlet hopper has to be away from the main conveyance area. You need to have brush gear systems to clean, etc. Then you need to have waterproofing, and this is of course specialized waterproofing. For the roof garden, you need to have integral waterproofing. Then the torch on screed, the sloping screed, then the drainage board, and the geotextile membrane, etc. Even for other housing, you need to have the waterproofing, and of course heat proofing, right? Ideally with styrofoam, right? And of course these are minor details like parking. You need to have one bay per house. If it is more than 200 square meters, you need to have 2. And of course, width of the passageway, of course, you cannot compromise. Under Singapore standards, you need to have at least 5 feet. 3 feet and so on are not acceptable. And you need to have places for protection. The key heart of the security, which is the fire command center, which also becomes the CCTV room. It will have not only the CCTVs and the fire command panel, fire indicator panel, the gas leakage panel, the lift log, everything should be there. And then you need to have people who for firefighting, or what do you call troubleshooting, technical guys who are available 24 hours to attend to the residents' complaints, or if they have an emergency, right? And having done all that, you need to give what you call as-built drawings. As-built drawings will have all the systems documented. So I build the building, I could get run over by a bus, right? What happens the next day? Somebody must take the baton and run, right? So the residents should know how to attend to the building. You need the water supply systems, water wastewater systems, the sewerage disposal, stormwater, solid waste management systems, everything, even the electrical system, the structural systems, everything. You need to have them all documented and handed over so that if something happens to one of us, it could be taken over by the management. And when all that happens, people could have their peace and quiet, right? And these little friendships could go. And this is the first sketch I did for the clubhouse, you can see. And now you can see how the friendships grow around this. On the left hand side, you when I stand on that veranda, what those vertical lines are bird meshes. Bird meshes, actually, otherwise the birds come into my veranda, right? So, and also I don't dare to go and take photographs at close range, otherwise I could get assaulted, right? I can't run that fast either now. So on the left hand side, you see the children playing, and the right hand side, you see that's a multi-generational gathering, right? So you see children, mothers and grandmothers, all of them enjoying their neighborhood. Now I have been talking about affluent apartments, right? For people with money. And I'm inspired by Neil most of the time with our little conversations we had. And I'm not only an architect, I'm an urban designer. I see cities as places of mega structures of habitation, right? You see on the left-hand side, Paris, below that, Barcelona, top middle, you have Venice, below that, Amsterdam, on the right-hand corner, you have the Manhattan Island, borough of New York. All these are mega structures, right? So that's Chicago. You see the residential suburbs running off the downtown area, and then onto the left-hand side, the production areas sprawling through. So these megastructures are defined by their scale, density, and complexity. So these are concentrations of population, and you have anonymity, alienation forming, and then the lack of the communal spirit is very hard to be sustained there. So here, when the habitation densities go up, you need to structure the space, right? For this, in order to do this, we have these two gurus, my two heroes, Aldo and Nike and Hermann Hertzberger, two Dutch architects in the interwar years. They looked at this structure, the structure that I was talking about, public, semi-public, semi-private, and private, how to structure the spaces. Now, each and every one of these habitations, stopping with the cul-de-sac, right? None of these are public roads. From the public road, you come into its lane, it becomes a semi-public area. And that little playground that is trapped inside becomes a semi-private area, which is under the purview and surveillance of all the houses around. So these people thought, as much as we do we practice structuralism in architecture, why don't we practice structure into the broader city? Now that baton was carried down by people like Oscar Newman, etc., who thought that structuring made communities safer. And this baton was taken by one city-state, which is Singapore. Now this is Singapore. At a glance, it's a mess, right? You see these huge densities, but they structure the spaces into town centers, neighborhood centers, and precinct centers, right? Just like I have shown it in the diagram. Now, what I'm showing here is a neighborhood, town where I have been living for 4 years. So it's, of course, these are old plans, so some of them have changed. What I have encircled by the green circle is a town center that has an agglomeration of all the commercial facilities. You find the MRT station on top. Next to it, you find the bus terminal, and just between the two, that little green blob is a pond and a town square. And then you find all the shops sprawling around. You have the kind of what do you call? There are two cinemas, one huge department store, and then NTUC is something like the government-sponsored Satosa, which is there, right? And in the middle you see these two squares. That's the food court, right? And adjoining that you have I have drawn two yellow circles, which are neighborhoods. And within those neighborhoods, you find the neighborhood centers, which find minor retail activity. Now, as and when the neighborhoods move away from the town center, the the neighborhood center becomes bigger because you need to give them more and more retail facilities. The first neighborhood center will have only a barber shop, maybe a 7-level and a mini mart, but the neighborhood center here, I know it had a wet market, a huge food center, a barber shop, even a pet shop, 2 bank branches. Then what's below is a little nursing home, and then there was the nursery school and a temple, etc. So this is spatial structuring at a national scale, right? On a nationwide canvas, we do spatial structuring. Now, this national housing policy could be used as a tool to manage the housing real estate of a nation to create harmonious communities. Now, just to give you some views of these areas, you find that at the bottom is the town center, which I showed you. You saw it as a blob, a green blob. That's a little pond, and around this area after 334, entire place, you can't find a place to sit on that ledge, right? It's a whole conglomeration of people. Then you have neighborhood centers, which are in between those HDB blocks, and the precinct center is the space between 4 HDB blocks, right? Those are actually those become the spatial units as well as the political units. I can tell you how the what do you call the constituencies are also formed in terms of those. You find the wards, 4 wards becomes the constituency, etc., right? And so we have been talking about how this how the hell is that? Yeah. වැඩ ගන්න මල්ලි. Okay. Okay, don't worry, right? So we talked about how you structure the city, right? And how you structure the human habitations. And then I pay this tribute to Neil, actually. We architects are also inspired by people who looked at the people and urban equity. Now we talk about urban equity today, right? So we talk about the urban equity in terms of developers. All scales of developers should have a level field of play. All builders should be able to construct, and also homeowners. So there should be homeowners who should all walks of life should be allowed to stay in the city. So these are 2 social geographers. Andre Lefebvre on top, he talks about the right to the city. He looks at the city as a social resource, a place of privilege where everything converges upon, right? So you have surplus finances, right? So you have a concentration of capital wealth, you have concentrations of means of production, you have concentrations of infrastructure, you have concentrations of human resources, you have concentrations of employment, right? Now, in this space, right, everybody wants to live, but do the people who work for the city and who make the city work, do they have the right to live in the city, right? There are people who are underprivileged, right? And some people cannot afford to live in the city. And the gentleman below, who's teaching at New York University, Professor David Harvey, he talks about how these underprivileged people are being kicked away by the rising cost of living. You can't afford to buy food, the rising rentals, right? And also the capitalist structures which are built into the urban structures, right? Where for capital to grow, you need beyond what we call compound interest rates, it has to be transferred into real estate. And that the capital is fixed on ground, and also surplus labor is fixed on ground. If surplus labor is left idle, that causes labor unrest. Now, in order to make these real estate projects, you need space, physical space. So inner city area, the poor people, they could get marginalized. Their houses, their housing area, the affordable housing is underserved. They could be disinvested, and their homelessness is criminalized. Their behavior is criminalized, and of course, then metaphorically, poverty becomes criminalized. And then they are moved out. they are being exploited in terms of the new rental structures and also the long commutes, because you have to now come back to the city. These are the people who actually wake up the city, people who make the coffee in Manhattan, right? Now who have been uh, placed in the outer fringes of Long Island, right? Now they have to make long commutes, and that hits their pocket due to heavy rates of transportation costs, but also it hits their time, the time that they could spend with their families, play with their children, even have a decent amount of sleep. So they have to sleep in the train itself. So there's even Andre Lefebvre writes this book on as a critique on everyday life, right? So you can see how housing policy could marginalize people, and how the housing policies need to be reviewed, as very correctly Neil says, to serve these people, right? Without them being this proletariat being exploited not only at the point of capital production, but also at the point of capital realization, right? The transportation cost. So thank God for that. There are architects who are looking at these issues, like this Alejandro Aravena, who's a North American architect, South American architect from Chile. He comes up with this idea called the 50% house. So he builds half a house for the family to move in and expand when they have the money, when they have financial wealth, and when they have the spatial needs, when they expand their families. And the main thing I admire about him is he looks at the cities as powerful tools to distribute wealth or redistribute wealth, and he looks at the city as effective mechanisms to improve the quality of life through public policy. Now, my final hero, one of my teachers, Professor Young, who teaches in Copenhagen, an urban designer, he writes life between buildings, not space between buildings. He talks about how these people who are brought into the city could be made to live happily, not only giving them financial wealth and place to stay. So he talks about how buildings should be built and oriented so that space between buildings can foster life between buildings. So he also takes this matrix, public, semi-public, and semi-private, just like the diagram on top. So when you have semi-public spaces and semi-private spaces, as and when you move from the public area to the private area, the amount of ownership, amount of people who use the common areas reduce, and you get a feeling of homeliness. And this is no rocket science. Even in Sri Lanka, I found places where they had done this, right? This is part of my BSc research. And last but not least, coming back, these are my finals. The next one will be the final. Now, looking at this harmony, the idea of putting people together, I looked at the what you call real estate curriculums of the other parts of the world, European countries. They talk. One professor talks about 3 areas of evaluating a good building: firmness, which is related to structural strength and stability; then commodity, which means utility and functionality; and delight, which means visual aesthetics. But I would suggest the 4th element about community, the communal spirit, sense of belonging, neighborhood cohesion. Now, these are these are metaphysical aspects, not physical aspects, that we seldom talk about. And I think it is our duty that we look at them, right? To go to my final slide. Yeah. So having done all that, on the left, right hand side corner, what you see is the buildings which are done. Obviously, well, architects, engineers, all of us have this little deficiency. We are proud and happy about what we do. But more than looking at the buildings and the concrete, I almost on a daily basis, I do a little routine roundabout on the roof garden. And I normally stop at this little play area. This play area is a little secluded area for toddlers as well as teenage children. You can see the same exercise machine which is placed there. So in the evening, you will see the teenagers playing. But in the mornings, something definitely interesting happens. These little children who even don't go to school, who are not old enough to go to school, they come and just talk, right? And these discussions grow into beauty. I mean, these little friendships bloom nicely in the garden, right? These discussions bloom into friendships. And of course, this has been, this is a photograph I must have captured about 15 years ago. So these children may be having their own children as well, right? But these are, as an architect, these are the little pleasures that I derive from what I have done, looking back, taking a sum total of your life. And this helps me to answer a question that I ask myself every morning. And we architects, we all of us ask this question from ourselves, right? Whether real estate is a commodity or whether real estate is a catalyst for rich human interaction. I think this gone. Okay. Right? So that's okay. So anyway, looking at those images, I'm sure you'll find the answer to this question, whether it's whether real estate should be called a commodity or a catalyst or a tool to enhance rich human interaction. So this is, as architects, this is what we do, this is what we believe in, and this is what we stand for. So I think, looking at the time, this is where I have to wind up. So thank you for being such a wonderful audience. So take care and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Senaka Dharmathilaka. So value-added services, it's a lot more than just brick and mortar. So I love how you highlighted the building wouldn't become a home without a family. May not be a nuclear one, but with an extended one, by focusing on the importance of metaphysical aspects as well. So thank you very much. Our resource persons are willing to share their knowledge. So please forward us your questions so we can let them share more and more knowledge with you. So with that, so our technical team needs 1 minute to get something fixed. Okay, right. Okay, so we are back with the industry dialogues. We are moving to the final presentation. For that, I would like to invite Professor Nishani Wickramarachchi to shed light on the topic of housing affordability and government intervention. Madam, please come.
Okay, thank you, Hashini, and good afternoon, everyone. So, under our main topic, that is housing preference beyond economic crisis, does it create a financial elite? So, my focus is on housing affordability and government intervention. The topics that I would be dealing with about housing affordability and its definition, and government intervention and the tools that has been used, and also the asymmetric effects using different countries' experience, including Sri Lanka. So let me give you an idea about what is housing affordability. We can simply define it as the capability of a household to purchase a house. But however, it has been defined under 3 categories like this. One is purchase affordability, that is when you have adequate funds to borrow to buy a house, that is called as the purchase affordability, whereas the other one is defined as the repayment affordability, that means ability to pay the mortgage repayment. Third one has been considered as the income affordability, that is to income to the house price ratio, that has to be satisfactory ratio. So let me give you the idea about why this housing affordability and housing has been important to discuss like this is. You can remember that in 1948, UN has universally declared housing as a human right, and since then onward, policymakers, scholars, everybody has focused on this housing and housing affordability. So, Millennium Development Goals in year 2000 said that access to durable and less crowded housing is the main target. And more or less supporting to this Millennium Development Goals, you know that Sustainable Development Goals also emphasize, the number 11 emphasize to ensure access for all to adequate, safe and affordable housing. So while these documentary evidences support the importance, on the other hand, researchers have been identified if this unaffordability rises, there would be health issues. That means tension between housing cost and basic needs leads to numerous physical and psychological health conditions of a household. Okay, so let us move about what are the trends we can identify under this housing affordability. Uh, you know that affordability levels are deteriorating in the worldwide and unaffordability is rising. So what I can say, increasing unaffordability intensify the inequality. Okay, so globally, this has become a social issue with this dramatic escalation in house prices faster than the income levels of the households. And also it has been identified COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated this issue. Okay, so it has been gained the substantial momentum even in the developed countries because they have been identified that realizing the housing ownership dream or spending, they are spending disproportionately large share of their incomes on housing. Hence, it has been put on the top of the priority of the agenda of the policymakers globally. Now, let me draw your attention on about the research that has been done or the publications about this housing affordability. You can see that it's increasing from 3 numbers to 4 numbers gradually. So, if we focus our attention on which countries that has been mostly considered on this one is you can see that United Kingdom, United States as well as China are the major areas where the others also have done this much of research on that one. So how we can say, how someone can say that it is affordable and unaffordable is according to the measurement. So there are 3 types of measurements have been developed. And the first indicator is the most common method that is being used is to compare expenditure to household income. Now here that means it says it is affordable if housing cost, that is the mortgage or rent or direct expenses on insurance, is below 30% of the household income, then it is says it is affordable. So on the other hand, it's unaffordable if it is above 30%. Now the indicator number 2 is explained under price to income ratio, that is about affordability limit has been defined. This limit is the maximum allowable loan limit or amount. Now, if we take one example, if house price is Y and the household income is X, then it is affordable if you divided Y by X. If it is smaller than the allowable limit, it is affordable, and on the other hand, it is unaffordable when you divide it by X if it is larger than the allowable limit. Now, the third indicator is about on the housing affordability index, that is has a value of fixed 100. It has been identified in California and they use the formula as median family income divided by qualifying income into 100. So here what is qualifying income is the monthly payment of the median priced housing, whatever subject to that at that moment. So if it is equal to 100, that means that the household is having sufficient income to purchase the median housing unit. If it is above 100, that means household has more income than necessary to purchase a typical unit. And also if it is below 100, that means household has less income, that is the unaffordability level. Now, focusing on these affordability limits, there's a research has been done using 145 countries by UN. Now, what they have wanted to identify is which area has this affordability issue is very high. So, accordingly, they have identified that Sub-Saharan Africa is the region where you find this affordability is very high. You can see that it is 55%. Similarly, the other indicator, that is the price to income ratio, also has been tested in the same region using the same countries, number of countries, and you can see that East Asia and Pacific has come to the highest level. That is because actually they said that those countries have high land prices and high construction cost leads to this kind of situation. Okay, the other one is what I want to highlight here is when we experience such a situation, the government intervention is needed. So where we are going to use certain government tools through regulatory actions. Now, if we focus on to those common instruments that has been used by the government to intervene housing market, we can say some legislation like securing property rights, etc. Even we also experience in our country. And taxation you can use either to tax breaks or a deduction for constructing rent, etc. This kind of thing. Now here one example is here in Israel. For example, the municipality property tax rates are set double for the vacant apartment. So that is how they control it. And furthermore, we can introduce subsidies, that is materials, like one example, a loan without a down payment for veterans in rural areas in USA has been introduced, although the other one is banking systems like changing finance rates and mortgage loans, etc. Now, even though this kind of tools we have identified, if we try to draw this word count by using the recent literature about these government intervention tools, you can see that it's highlight the policies rather than the subsidies, taxes, etc. So the same thing is highlighted by the scholarly views also. So one research says that simply increasing the supply will not reduce the unaffordability, because they said that if you try to increase the supply, that will only a locational impact would give you. It's not contribute to the equity as a social welfare technique. And also another research says that providing more mortgage for home buyers, among others, is the solution for the global housing affordability problem in the future. So supporting to this argument, another research says that access to mortgage loans for young household is likely to be the key driver of home ownership. So you can see that everybody is supporting this monetary policies and the mortgage and rates, etc., rather than the other instruments. Now, I would like to draw your attention to the pandemic and economic recession. You know that the quarterly growth rates of the GDPs of many countries were negative in 2020 and they were positive after 2021 onwards. Similarly, during that period, housing prices in 2020-2021 were very high, and also they falls down in 2022. Why this kind of situation we can observe is, it says that the demand for more spacious houses increased during this pandemic period, and also due to the low interest rates applied by many countries also increased the demand for housing units. Meanwhile, the construction cost was very high and there was a limited supply of the housing unit, so that there was this price escalation we have experienced. Now, it can be taken as a special scenario, ideal situation to test this monetary policy implications. So having this idea, I would like to move to the experience in other countries. So here's what has been done during that period. Central bank cuts interest rates in year 2020 in 54 countries in the first quarter, and in 27 countries in second quarter, and in 5 countries in third quarter, because when it come to the third, fourth quarters, the impact was disappearing, right? And slowly the interest rate were increases when it come to 2021 last quarter and 2022. So accordingly, we can identify what are the monetary policies and their asymmetric effects. That means we can identify a sort of larger return when you try on a little on a certain of a job. Okay, so this is one experience I have taken from UK. You can see that during March 2020, the interest rate were cut to 0.1. That is the lowest that they have ever been tried. And the corresponding house price index, you can see the UK house price index, during that period, the house prices are increasing. Now, this is another experience used in 10 countries like Australia, Canada, Italy, Great Britain, Japan, etc., you can see the similar pattern in all these countries, that is U-shaped. That means during 2020, first quarter, second quarter, they had the lower interest rate, and gradually the interest rate increases. Now, corresponding to that pattern in the same 10 countries, if you look into the house price indices, you can see that where the interest rates were low, you can see the house prices were rising, and where the interest rates were low, the house pricing begin to downward trend. Now, these are the areas where the house prices change has happened in the world during 2020, 2021. What I want to highlight is Sri Lanka also falls within the blue color region. That means we are also experiencing this price escalations. Okay. So if we try to understand about the percentage house price change in worldwide, you can see that it is in Turkey. Turkey is the country where the house prices has been increased at a very high percentages, that is about 168 as a percentage. Now, if we focus on about the least affordable housing market, that is where you find the most expensive housing market, it comes to first place goes to Hong Kong, right? And this is another experience that we have, house price growth in few advanced economies. You can see that this has been done as a comparative study where they have used the 2018 and 2019, that is before pandemic period, and after pandemic, that is the 2020-21 period. The blue color indicate the before period and the orange color indicate the after period. You can see that all the countries have the orange color is very high except Finland and Spain countries. So this is another interesting findings that I can show you using 5 countries, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK and US. What is the interesting feature that they have identified here is when you drop the real interest rate by 1%, there will be 1.5% increase in the house prices while all the other factors are constant. So now all those experience I just explained you from the global trend. So let me give you one experience from our country. This is a research outcome that has been conducted by myself and Ms. Rustini Vijay from our department. So here what we try to indicate is housing market behavior with reference to changes in the monetary policy and the mortgage interest rate using certain evidence from Colombo Municipal Council, Sri Lanka. Now, what we have done here is we have taken the average weighted call money rate from the central bank monetary policy during the this is a comparative one. We used this in 2018 and 2020 period. You can see the pattern is when you come to 2020 end, the pattern is declining. That means we have cut the interest rate. And we, on the other hand, we took the building application behavior from the Colombo Municipal Council because we don't have standard data to indicate housing demand in the country. That is also for the same period, and you can see the corresponding relationship is when you come to 2020 end, the building applications are rising. Okay. And the same thing we did for the year 2021 and 2022. So this is the average weighted call money rate behavior. You can see that it is highly increasing when you come to 2022. So the corresponding behavior of the building application is they are getting down drastically. Now to confirm this relationship, what we did is we tried on a correlation in between these two. So you can see during the period of 2018-2020, it experienced a negative moderate relationship in between these two, whereas we experience a significant negative strong relationship between the period of 2021 and 2022. Now further we want to identify what is the point that this curve turned down. So accordingly you can see that when the average weighted call money rate increased up to 6%, it started getting down the ratio, and you can see it is decreasing at an increasing rate furthermore if you try to increase the rate. Similarly, during the period of 2021-22, we find that it begins around 5%, and gradually it is decreases when you increases the rate. You can understand from the curve. So to give you an idea about the current research in Sri Lanka, this is about 2023 publication. This research has been done using the data 2019. Now what they say about this housing expenditure, affordability, household asset, etc., irrespective of these monetary policy changes, the affordability is highly depend on the remittance, okay, and it has been, they have shown that it is significant in all three sectors in the country, that is urban, rural, estate, etc., right? But that is about the context in Sri Lanka. But however, what I want to highlight is if you want to avoid this, if you want to avoid the financial elites, and if you want to ensure the social equity, the best policy, it said, is the monetary policy in the economic crisis, because it has direct and indirect impacts. Whereas we can explain the direct impacts like this: when you reduces the monetary, the interest rate, it reduces the burden of the household, so they increase their consumption and investment, which contribute to the output growth positively. On the other hand, we can explain the indirect behavior under wealth effect and credit effect. Wealth effect here means when there is a higher demand for housing, it increases the real estate prices, means it increases the real estate owners' wealth also, whereas they also increase their consumption and investment, and this positively contribute to the output growth. On the other hand, the credit effect is when you have higher house prices, it increases the mortgage value, where you have more opportunities to obtain credit facilities, and you are increasing your consumption and investment again. So in any side, if you look into the direct or indirect effect, it contributes to the positive output growth. So therefore we can say that when there is economic crisis, the best policy you can adopt is the monetary policy, in which we can avoid the financial elites, and we can create more sustainable, more equality and more opportunities, ensuring the social welfare in the country. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Nishani Wickramarachchi, for doing a very comprehensive analysis on the trends in the housing market. So we are now, with the time limitations, we are now moving quickly to the Q&A session. So until I receive the question from the virtual attendees, I open up the session for the physical attendees. So you can raise your hand if you want to ask any question, so we can give you the microphone. Our resource persons are willing to share their knowledge. They want to talk more because they were requesting more time to talk even. So please take this opportunity to get anything clarified, any questions to ask. Yes, please. We have a gentleman over here. Can we have a microphone?
Hello. I would like to ask Mr. Priyashant. He was mentioning about the tax component of 15%. I think this was mentioned a few years ago by the government, but it has still not been implemented. So what is the real situation of that?
And yeah, now it's implementing already. Yeah, from the 2023. Yeah, from October 2022.
Right, thank you very much. Any more questions from the audience? Yes, we have another question from the gentleman.
Thank you. Right, thank you. My question I asked from Dr. Seneka. He good presentation according to that condominium property in Havelock City. He explained building services and community very good building services to the society that condominium owners. I want to clarify that Dr. Seneka, that things the beginning of the project very high capital value, the apartment value, but the condominium property in pre-hold interest, the share value of the property end of we come to the condominium age more than 50 years. What about the security of the building owners? You think about the, I want to, your expertise views of the about the safety of the continuous safety of the property owners. That my question.
Yes, I think it's quite a good question in a sense. We often, I think, the question that most of us, actually, even my parents would ask, what if, when does the building, its structural lifespan, and what happens, right? So this is where I think we need to, this is where your question comes up. Am I right? So yes. So what happens is, if you take the lifespan of the building, there's a lifespan for, there's a structural lifespan for a building or concrete, etc. And the ownership that you have, depending on the share value. If you have a single bedroom unit, there'll be a share value. If you have a 4-bedroom unit, there'll be a share value which is greater than the single bedroom. And this is about the property, its capex items, facilities, everything put together. And of course, certain things depreciate at the same time. Certain things appreciate, like the land value, right? So at the end of, if you say at the end of the structural lifespan of a certain phase of a building, the owners, the house owners association, homeowners association, or what we call the body corporate, will have an internal discussion, and then you will go into, not only now, if you take the buildings which we have put up, 4 of them are 22 stories high. So each block has 113. Then we have the phase 3, which is 28 stories high. Each of these have this phase 3 itself has 304 units, and phase 4 is 31 stories tall, and it has 340 units. But if you decide at a later stage, maybe in 50 or maybe 100 years time, say the lifespan of concrete is more than 100 years, right? So say 50 years. At 50 years time, you think even before the structural lifespan expires, you might decide that you will put up a building which is even 80 stories high at that, which is possible as well, right? And then your dividends will be much greater than what we find today. So it is actually a value that keeps appreciating, then depreciating, and you will find the security. This is common to all properties, right?
Now, if you take our property alone, I remember when phase 1 was constructed, the 2-bedroom apartments were the price was about 20 million, right? And I remember the square foot area 1,210 square feet. Then in phase 4, the 2-bedroom apartments are only 1,100 square feet, and their price, as opposed to the 20 million, is 130 million. So that shows the appreciation of properties of the built mass, as well as, I mean, take 50 years from now. Now I'm talking about a time window of not more than 15 years, right? So according to your share value of any property, I mean, not only the buildings that we do in Colombo, but any property, you will have that appreciation, and that security, if I may say so, will be there for the children, of course, right? In a sense, I mean, if the homeowners association wants to demolish the existing building, even after 15 years of its occupation, still fine. And then you might go into even a larger venture, right? That's totally up to the homeowners. And that security, of course, is there. And of course, it keeps appreciating with time. And the more time it consumes, the more security you get. Am I right?
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Seneka. We have another question from the audience.
Successful. Okay, and we are talking about the vitals and and the noble idea of putting families together and a happy community, But what was the reaction of the people, the families? I mean, with regards to the owners union, and are they, I mean, because you had the bylaws and the governance, okay, are they like paying their monthly contribution for maintenance and for management? Like in our country, in Bahrain, this was and is still a big problem, because they are not contributing in time, and we have a lot of cases in court that people are not paying, and the owners union are not functioning well. So what was your experience this particular project?
Thank you for the question. I think I have been quite happy or lucky. We have been lucky. And of course, I think as a country, I think I feel we are blessed. People understand. And most of the house owners, I mean, I walk the site day in, day out throughout the length. And of course, there are, I mean, you find somebody who would want to kind of improve a little apartment, which we happily oblige. And of course, there will be, among residents, there will be little disagreements and so on. But overall, I think we have had a pleasant experience and a pleasant run. And over 1,100 families are moved in. And even, I mean, day in, day out, even just before I came in, I mean, people who are doing their jogging or playing in the garden. The management is done by the homeowners associations, because we did it in 4 phases. So phase 1 has 226 houses. Phase 2 has 225 house units, and we amalgamate phase 3 and 4 together, which has 644 units altogether. and each one has condominium management and proper. All of them have their proper premises, the proper facilities, the security and the communication centers. They do have their regular the meetings, what you call we have not only the annual general meetings, but I find that they keep they find pleasure in meeting each other, I suppose. And almost every month they have meetings, and then sometimes I'm also invited. I wouldn't mind the cookies and the tea. So and there are not that there are no problems, there are sometimes disagreements, but I find that they are mutually being thrashed out, and whenever I can, I jump in to help. Like the last meeting, I remember they wanted more seating in the garden. Of course, I mean, as long as it goes with the visual theme and the architecture intent, we don't mind. And there were issues of okay, I mean, to bring out another aspect, I mean, we are a mixed development, one of the largest mixed developments. So there were fears and anxieties about how, when the what you call the retail commercial development kicks in, how do we deal with the security? And these are very valid concerns. And we all got together, the three phases, phase 1, phase 2, 3 and 4 amalgamated, we got together, and then devised a system of sharing responsibilities between the units. Of course, the architect does not have to get involved all the time, but of course, as a friend, I'm being invited, which I think as a social privilege. And I found that all the gentlemen and the ladies who attend the meetings were amicably agreeable on the situation. And as the developer, I could liaise with my own management and then make sure that the security of the commercial, the security establishment of the commercial development is synchronized with the residential. So I think if you leave alone, I mean, my friendly advice is if you leave alone the, the different hats we wear, the official hats, and assume ourselves as human beings who try to roll up our sleeves and find solutions to problems, not only as architects, but as all professionals, things could get ironed out very easily. I don't find people the faces not paying the what you call not paying their dues in time, etc. There were certain concerns when phase 1, along with phase 1, when we opened up the clubhouse. Of course, there was a question because the amount of maintenance that had to be done by 1,100 families would have to be done by a lesser amount of family, which is about 226 to be precise. And that was thrashed out very amicably by the between discussion with the developer and the house owners, right? So if you bring in the right people into the discussion at the right time, I'm sure these things could be thrashed out. For example, I mean, if I may ask you a question, in Bahrain, what are the disputes that you find between the homeowners association and the homeowners, if I may ask?
I mean, the concept of owners union is relatively new in Bahrain. Unfortunately, in different families and of different level of livings, or they may come together because of government subsidies. Okay, so you end up having families who cannot afford or pretend to be, so eventually owners unions became functional. There are a lot of cases, and they end up having cases in court because people are not paying for the maintenance of the lift and the common areas. So the concept is not yet
now I see. So what you mean is it's the cultural incompatibilities.
It's a mixture of cultural plus, yeah.
And also the definitions of communal living. Now this, of course, I can say now, as much as in Sri Lanka, in Singapore, the society is, I mean, it's very, very, very much sophisticated in I wouldn't say use the word sophisticated. I would say they are acclimatized to communal living. And these things, they become almost like second nature. So whenever a dispute arises, immediately a meeting is called out, and the related professionals, say if it's a, so the disputes come out, not mainly the what do you call, maintenance for funding, etc., or also those areas. Say if it's a capex item, you want to buy a generator. If the generator is giving trouble, you need to buy a generator. Of course, in Singapore, you don't need generators as such. Say a transformer, right? Then they will elect a person within their community who's an electrical engineer, and so that you have the trust of everybody, right? And make sure that these problems are resolved. And of course, the developer will come with his own in-house expertise, right? So I think what my friendly advice is, maybe you should develop a mechanism among your among these what you call homeowners associations to mediate, to have mediation between these cultural misunderstandings, I would say, because not only the economic disparities, but the understanding of what of your rights and obligations in a community may differ from culture to culture, right? So I think that's where we need to find solutions in dealing with these issues with the homeowners association.
Right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So we have received a couple of more questions from the virtual attendees as well. We have been joined over 300 participants via Zoom. Unfortunately, we don't have time. The time is against us. So let me forward those questions to our resource panel and come back to you via email. So with that, we are moving to the conclusion of the segment. So every great contribution must be appreciated. So we are moving towards the giveaway of the tokens of appreciation. To give away the first token of appreciation, I would like to invite Mr. Sunil Fernando, Managing Director of the Sunil Fernando Associates Private Limited, and Mr. Gamini Abe Gunawardena, Managing Director of the Abe Gunawardena Associates Chartered Valuers and Real Estate Consultants Private Limited. To accompany them, I would like to invite Dr. Pratap Kalutantri, Head, Department of Estate Management and Valuation. To receive the first token of appreciation, I cordially invite Professor Nishani Wickramarachchi, Professor, Department of Estate Management and Valuation, University of Sri Jayewardenepura, Sri Lanka. Thank you very much, Mr. Sunil Fernando and Mr. Gamini Gunawardena. Dr. Pratap, please stay on stage. For the giveaway of the second token of appreciation, I would like to invite Deputy Chief Valuer, Mr. Anuradha Senaviratna and Mr. Jude Dilantha. To accompany them, I would like to invite again Dr. Pratap Kalutantri. To accept the second token of appreciation, I would like to invite architect Dr. Senaka Dharmatilaka. Right, thank you very much, gentlemen. To give away the third token of appreciation, I would like to invite Mr. Lalit D. Silva, Municipal Assessor, Colombo Municipal Council, Sri Lanka, and Mr. Jayasiri Bogahavatta, Deputy Chief Valuer, Government Valuation Department. To accompany them, I would like to invite Dr. Upili Pereira, Senior Lecturer, Director of Center for Real Estate Studies, Department of Estate Management and Valuation, University of Sri Jayewardenepura. To receive the third token of appreciation, I would like to invite Planner ESE Priyashantha. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Madam, please stay on stage. To give away the final token of appreciation, I would like to invite Mrs. Dayani Francis, Director, Land Division, Urban Development Authority, and Mr. RMC Dharmasiri, representative of IVSL, Institute of Valuers of Sri Lanka. To accompany them, I would like to invite again Dr. Upuli Perera. To receive the final token of appreciation, I would like to invite Valuer Neil Tissera on stage. Please step on stage. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining with the giveaway of the token of appreciation. So thank you very much again for all of you for actively engaged with the industry dialogue. With that, we are concluding the industry dialogue segment.